Hello viewers, in this module we shall understand about the solid phase extraction. In our previous modules, I have given my lecture on different liquid-liquid extraction techniques. What are the different compounds which can be extracted by liquid-liquid extraction techniques have also been described, and the experimental conditions with certain examples and what are the fundamental aspects involved in the extraction of chemical compounds in liquid-liquid extraction we have described and we understood. This particular module is devoted to describe the principle, fundamental aspects, and the components and different chemical equilibrium principles involved in the extraction of the solutes by solid phase extraction technique. In liquid-liquid extraction, the solute will be transferred from one liquid phase to another liquid phase. And the reason for such selective transfer of solute from one liquid phase to another liquid phase is the relative solubility of the solute, the partitioning of the solute between the two phases. So, in liquid-liquid extraction, if the hydrophilic property of the solute is declined, is reduced, as a result of enhanced hydrophobic property, then certainly the transfer of the solute from the aqueous layer to organic phase will be seen. So that's what the liquid-liquid extraction we will be using. But in this solid phase extraction technique, the solid phase extraction technique is also a very important extraction technique in which the extraction of the solute will be taken place. We will extract the solute, but not by using liquids. Sample will be dissolved in a liquid, but the extraction medium will be a solid. That's what the name is implying, solid phase. So solid phase extraction technique is also one of the very popular extraction techniques, which is widely employed for the purification of the samples. Suppose any sample, it is containing analytes. Analytes have to be separated by either liquid chromatography or gas chromatography, whatever it is, or any other analytical techniques. Prior to separation of different analytes which are present in the sample, their purification, the removal of the matrices, the removal of the endogenous substances is very important. For such aspects, for such objectives, the solid phase extraction technique will be employed. So let us go ahead in order to understand the definition of solid phase extraction, what are the components we will use, and what are the chemical equilibrium principles involved in performing solid phase extraction. Okay, what is the principle of solid phase extraction? We understood the principle of liquid-liquid extraction, that is, the selective transfer of the solute from one liquid phase to another liquid phase is the liquid-liquid extraction, where the analyte will be transferred from aqueous phase to organic phase or organic phase to aqueous phase. In solid phase extraction, one liquid phase will be absent, one liquid phase will be present. What is that liquid phase present? That is the liquid phase, it is containing the sample. Sample may be present in either solid state or liquid state, but the minimum requirement, we have to convert the sample into solution because we can introduce the solution for extraction process. So therefore, that solute present in the sample in the liquid phase will be made to interact over the surface of the solid phase. So dependent upon the relative affinity of the surface of the solid or the solid medium what we are using, the relative affinity of the solid what we are using towards the analyte will become a response factor here for the separation of solute. Therefore, solid phase extraction can be defined as it is a separation technique in which selective transfer of a solute in sub-microgram to milligram levels between solid sorbent and liquid phase is involved. Here, the liquid phase is a sample solution which will be introduced to the solid which is present in a device, which is present in a equipment, or which is present in a separation apparatus, which is containing solid sorbent or solid substance, solid medium, and that solid medium will be possessing some affinity towards the solute. Therefore, the solutes are attracted towards this solid sorbent. So the selective transfer of the solute takes place, and this selective transfer is dependent upon the relative affinity of the sorbent towards the solutes. So the separations in solid phase extraction are depends on the relative affinities of the solutes, as I told you, and what kind of affinities they are. We have two phases. One will be solid phase and the other one will be liquid phase. And between the solute which is present in the liquid phase and the solid sorbent, the adsorption process may be expected. The adsorption process will be common when we use sorbents. Sorbents will provide better adsorption surfaces. Whatever the solute which is having impressive attraction towards the sorbent, or which is matching the property of the sorbent, it may be polarity or hydrogen bonding or van der Waals interaction, whatever it is, that solute will tend to adsorb over the surface of the sorbent. Whatever the species which is having stronger adsorption towards the sorbent, that will be retained over the solid phase for longer time, and the solute which is having negligible adsorption capacity over the sorbent, that will be going out faster, and the intermediate species will be in the mid. So this is the separation sequence we can propose for the separation of solutes by using solid phase extraction. And even size or charge. Based on the size, the solutes are separated. If certain solutes are smaller in size, their penetration into the solid sorbent will be more when compared to larger solutes. So larger solutes are going to be excluded. They will move along with the liquid front in the sense, when we introduce the sample into the absorption medium, the liquid will take out all those solutes which are larger in size, and all those smaller solutes will penetrate into the sorbent pore maze very easily. Therefore, they will be retained for longer interval of time. This type of mechanism can also be seen, and this is one other kind of affinity. And the charge. If the solid phase sorbent is positively charged and the solute is negatively charged, there will be electrostatic force of attraction between positively and negatively charged species. So therefore, charge will become a response factor here for the separation of solutes which are charged, which are ionic in nature. So, of course, in liquid-liquid extraction, the extraction efficiency and selectivity was used to be achieved by proper control of the pH, and what is the organic phase we have to use, what kind of aqueous phase you have to use. All those things are applicable here also, but in contrast to liquid-liquid extraction, the selectivity in solid phase extraction is dependent upon the pH, a solvent composition, what do we use in order to dissolve the sample, and the sorbent nature, the surface chemistry of the sorbent nature. Sorbent will be a chemical species, and that will be possessing many functional groups. Some functional groups will be highly polar, and they will attract more polar species. Some functional groups will be non-polar, and they will attract more non-polar species. So therefore, surface chemistry of the sorbent is also very important. So the selectivity and hence the efficiency of extraction in solid phase extraction is dependent on three parameters. One will be pH, and other one will be solvent composition, then the nature of the sorbent. Okay, what are sorbents then? And what are the species we can use as sorbents? The sorbents are chemical compounds, chemical materials. Say, for example, if you take sand, sand is a sorbent. Sand is nothing but it is silica. What is silica? SiO2. If you take SiO2, where silicon is attached by oxygen and oxygen is attached by hydrogen, so the OH groups, the hydrolysis of silica, after hydrolysis of silica, tend to convert silica into hydroxylated silica. So hydroxy groups present in silica will become responsible for the adsorption process. So when these selenal groups, OH groups of silica tend to undergo ionization, they will be converted into selenate anions. And these selenate anions will be pointed outward, and they are present over the surface of the sorbent, and hence the sorbent will be acting as a medium for the extraction of the solutes by adsorption process. So that's what the adsorption of the solutes over the surface of the silica. So sorbents are the chemical compounds which tend to make the solutes to undergo adsorption or sorption, or which tend to make analyte to have some certain interaction with the sorbent with itself. So sorbent will make the solute to interact with itself either by adsorption process or hydrogen bonding or dipolar interaction or van der Waals interaction or electrostatic force of attraction or hydrophobic interaction, etc. Many interactions we can expect between the solute and the sorbent. So generally in solid phase extraction, either silica or chemically modified silica will be commonly employed as solid phase. So these are the commonly employed sorbents, silica and chemically modified silica. And these solid sorbents, the solid phase sorbents will be having the particle size of 40 to 60 micrometer with respect to diameter. So the particle size is very large. As a result of a larger particle size of these sorbents, the expected interaction between solute and the solid phase will become highly selective. So because of the particle size, not only the nature of surface chemistry or the surface chemistry of the sorbent, but also the particle size is also very important, especially in the separation of the solute based on the size. The ionic size is very important. So what is the size, what is the pore size of each and every particle of solid phase sorbent? That is also very important. So larger particle size of the sorbent is also a deciding factor in order to succeed the separation process. So I told you about the chemically modified silica. Silica will be modified by attaching the groups such as octadecyl, octyl, phenyl, amino, aminopropyl, certain ion exchange groups such as sulfonic acid groups, and tetramethyl ammonium group. All these modifications will be done by chemical treatment. Silica will be taken and it will be treated chemically by performing general chemical reaction in order to convert silica into octadecylsilane, octylsilane, phenyl aminosilane, aminopropylsilane, or aminosilane, or even silica can be converted into some other modified group by treating with the chemical reactions, and ion exchange groups can be introduced to the silica, or silica can be used as such in the unmodified form for the extraction process. These ion exchange groups can be introduced to styrene group of molecules. A copolymer of styrene and divinyl benzene, if you take at fourth position of styrene, we can introduce this SO3H group. SO3H group will be a strongly acidic group, sulfonic acid group. When it tend to undergo hydrolysis to get converted to sulfonate anion and H plus cation, the sulfonate anion will be attached to the resin group. We can say polymeric group. If you take copolymer of styrene and divinyl benzene, and hydrogen ion will be the replaceable ion. So in place of hydrogen, the ions which are positively charged will be exchanged. The order of exchange, let us discuss that when we come to ion exchange chromatography. Let us not to worry about that. Here the factors are charge on the species, whether it is monovalent, divalent, or trivalent, size of the species, size of the, as the charge is increased, size will decrease. As the charge is increased, size will be decreased. As the charge is lower, size will be higher. So we know this. So the exchange capacity for the sorbent will be more whenever the species is more charged. Exchange capacity will be less whenever the species is less charged. So likewise, so ion exchange groups can be introduced, and unmodified silica can be used as such. So these ion exchange groups are introduced to polystyrene divinyl benzene copolymers, and magnesium silicate can also be used. Magnesium silicate are also known as fluorosil. Even alumina can be used, Al2O3 we can use, charcoal can be used. All these things. Silica either in the modified form, octadecylsilane or octylsilane, phenyl, amino, ion exchange group substituted sorbents we can use, unmodified silica we can use, and these ion exchange groups can be introduced to a copolymer of polystyrene and divinyl benzene. So here, the maximum of the sorbents, maximum number of the sorbents will be working based on the principles in which there is interaction between the solute and the sorbent. The interactions may be different from one to another. What kind of interactions they are? The interactions may be hydrophobic interaction. Hydrophobic interaction means if there is bulky group attached to the solute and the sorbent is also having bulky group, certainly the aqueous solubility of the solute will be reduced when it is made to interact with hydrophobic group of the sorbent. So interaction will become stronger between sorbent and the solute. Therefore, hydrophobic interaction we can expect. And van der Waals force of attraction, these are the weak force of attractions between solute and sorbent we can see. They are very weak. Van der Waals forces are very weak. So even we cannot ignore the van der Waals forces of attraction between solute and the solid phase. Dipolar interactions. Dipolar interactions means the nucleus of one of the element present in the compound will be interacting with the nucleus of other element of the solute, right? So such kind of interactions we can say dipolar interactions. Between the molecules, interaction takes place. What are those between the molecules? One will be sorbent, another one will be solute. So we can see dipolar interaction. Hydrogen bonding we can see between oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen bonding. These are also weak force of attraction between oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, etc. So this may be intramolecular or intermolecular, but in solid phase extraction, the hydrogen bonding will be intermolecular. Why it is intermolecular? Because one will be sorbent and the other one will be solute. And if you use a copolymer of styrene and divinyl benzene as a sorbent, if it is modified by introducing sulfonic acid group or by introducing tetramethyl ammonium group, if you have introduced sulfonic acid group, SO3 minus H plus will be present in the sorbent, in the copolymer, where the exchange of cation can be expected. So that is ion exchange separation. Solid phase extraction can be performed by using the principle of ion exchange equilibrium. If you have introduced tetramethyl ammonium chloride group to the styrene and styrene copolymer sorbent, where chloride will be the exchangeable ion, it is anion, and all the anions which is present in the sample will be replaced in place of chloride. So chloride Cl minus, that is anion exchange equilibrium. So cation exchange and anion exchange both are possible while using the sorbents which are modified in such a way that ion exchange equilibria can be expected. And even exclusion is also very common, and this exclusion can be seen whenever you are intended to separate the solutes based on the size. Say you assume the solutes present in a sample are categorized into smaller, bigger, and intermediate sizes. You will introduce the sample solution containing the solutes of these three different groups: smaller solutes, intermediately sized solutes, and bigger solutes based on the size. Sorbent is prepared in such a way that after making it wet, after it is sufficiently conditioned, the pore of the sorbent molecule or the sorbent material will become responsible for entrapping the solute which is present in the sample. So as a result, when you create the interface between the sample solution and the solid phase sorbent, first the sequential separation will start to take place based on the size. How? The solid phase sorbent you have, the sample solution is having smaller solutes, bigger solutes, and the solutes with intermediate size between smaller and bigger solutes. The pore size of the solid phase sorbent is very, very less when compared to diameter of the bigger solutes. And in the meantime, the pore size of the solid phase sorbent is very high when compared to the diameter of the smaller particles, smaller solutes. What will happen here? When you introduce the sample through the solid phase bed, all those bigger solutes will be excluded. All the bigger solutes will be excluded because they don't permeate. They are not entrapped. They are not trapped into the pore maze of the solid phase sorbent. So they are excluded. So bigger solutes are going along with the sample solution. And at the mid, intermediately sized solutes will penetrate, but they will also move after the bigger size solutes. But the smaller size solutes, because their diameter is very, very less when compared to pore size of the solid phase sorbent, they will be retained, they will be staying, their residence time in the solid phase sorbent will be more. This kind of mechanism is called as the exclusion principle. So the solutes are also separated based on exclusion equilibrium. And not necessary to expect only one interaction between the solute and the solid phase. Even there may be mixed mechanisms are also common. If you have two solutes and you made both the solutes to pass through the sorbent, one solute may be separated because of the hydrogen bonding, chances of hydrogen bonding between the solute and the solid phase sorbent. And the other solute might have involved in van der Waals force of attraction with the sorbent, or it might have affected hydrophobic interaction like this. So mixed mechanisms are also possible. So whatever the solute you are intended to separate by solid phase extraction, the reason or the interactions between solute and sorbent are hydrophobic, van der Waals forces, dipolar interactions, hydrogen bonding, ion exchange, exclusion, and even mixed mechanisms. So sorbents are classified based on their properties. Properties in the sense, number one, polarity, based on polarity. Silica is highly polar. If you take the natural silica, it is highly polar. So because of the presence of hydroxy groups. But when you modify silica, if you have modified silica by introducing octadecyl group and octyl group, it will be totally non-polar. It will be totally non-polar. So these hydrocarbon modified silicas are nothing but octadecylsilane or octylsilane. They are non-polar. Because of their non-polarity and they have long hydrophobic chain, the alkyl group, it is very, very long. These long alkyl groups are hydrophobic in nature. So we can expect hydrophobic interaction with the solute. Whichever the solute which is hydrophobic in nature, the extent of interaction between this hydrophobic hydrocarbon form of the silica and the solute will be more, right? So these type of modified silica are suitable for the separation of wide range of organic compounds which are present in aqueous solutions. So on one hand, you can take silica which is highly polar. Silica is highly polar because of presence of number of OH groups, and modified silica such as octylsilane or octadecylsilane, hydrocarbon modified silica, they are known as hydrocarbon modified silica, they are non-polar. Because of their non-polarity, they are hydrophobic and they are used for the separation of solutes based on hydrophobic interaction from the aqueous sample solution. Along with unmodified silica, even alumina, Al2O3, fluorosil, all of them are polar. So when you use this sorbent, more polar sorbent, When you pass the sample solution containing polar, non-polar, and intermediately polar solute, polar solute's residence time in the sorbent bed will be more when compared to the rest. So non-polar solutes will be moving faster. They are separated from polar and intermediately polar solutes. So when you introduce the sample solution containing polar, intermediately polar, and non-polar solutes into the sorbent instrument or solid phase extractor, first group of compounds are non-polar compounds, because polar compounds have showed better interaction with the polar sorbent, that is silica, alumina, or fluorosil. Fluorosil means magnesium aluminum silicate. So because non-polar solutes are not having the affinity to interact with the sorbent, therefore they will be excluded. They are left out. So they will pass along with the solvent. And at the mate, intermediately polar solute will be eluted. Intermediately polar solutes are separated from non-polar solute first. Then intermediately polar solutes are separated from polar solutes. Then at last polar solutes. So unmodified silica, alumina, or fluorosil, these are also polar. And ionic and ionizable solutes, they are separated by using the sorbents which are having cationic or anionic exchange groups, ionic solutes. If a species, say for example, aluminium 3+, calcium 2+, and sodium plus, you have to separate them. So because they are ionic, you cannot use this silica or modified silica or fluorosil or alumina, because they are not suitable to separate ionic solutes. Therefore, you need a sorbent which is having ionic group, where ion exchange principle must be taken place in order to separate the solutes. Therefore, some sorbents will be working based on the function of ion exchange equilibrium. So based on polarity, polar and non-polar, polar and non-polar sorbents are used. Even some ionizable sorbents are also used to separate ionizable solutes. And the sorbents will be used with respect to various experimental conditions. Say, for example, you have to separate weak acids. Weak acids, you have to maintain high pH, because weak acids should undergo ionization, should undergo dissociation. At lower pH, weakly acidic species do not undergo dissociation, or they do not undergo ionization. So you have to maintain a higher pH. When they are ionized, their interaction with ion exchange sorbent will become very easy. And similarly, weak bases. For weak bases, you cannot maintain highly basic medium. You have to maintain acidic medium, because they have to be converted into protonated forms. So the aqueous solutions of weakly acidic species can be extracted at higher pH, and the aqueous solution of weakly basic species can be extracted at lower pH, because at higher pH, weakly acidic solutions undergo ionization to get converted into positively and negatively charged species, and at low pH, weakly basic species undergo protonation. Okay, so the ionization can also be suppressed by pH control only. By pH control only. If we avoid the ionization, let us assume, if we avoid the ionization, what does it mean? We have maintained the compound in its original form. So its polarity will come to the picture. If the compound, it may be weakly acidic or weakly basic, if you have not maintained higher pH or lower pH, so the originality of the compound which is present in the sample remains same. So as a result, we can utilize octadecylsilane or octylsilane as sorbent to separate such weakly acidic and weakly basic species, provided we have not increased the ionization process. We have suppressed the ionization process through pH control. Say for example, if you maintain pH 6 to 7, either weakly acidic or weakly basic species do not undergo any transformation. They will be retained intact. So therefore, we can extract them, we can separate them by using modified sorbents, modified silica type of sorbents, such as octadecylsilane or octylsilane silica. And sorbents are also possible with intermediate polarity. So if you modify silica by introducing cyanopropyl group or aminopropyl group, they will be intermediately polar. So this type of modified silica will be applicable for the separation of both polar and non-polar solutes. So the solute selectivity will be expected when you use modified silica such as cyanopropyl silica or aminopropyl silica. It is suitable for the separation of both polar and non-polar solutes. So if you use intermediately polar silica, the solutes are separated based on their polarity. Whichever the species more polar, they will be they are not separated at first. Non-polar species will be eluted first, then intermediately polar species eluted next, then polar, or vice versa. So intermediately polar sorbents are also used. So this table is showing some commonly employed sorbents, what we will use in solid phase extraction, and with their formula. So you can see here, sorbent is silica, SiO2, fluorosil, MgSiO3, magnesium silicate, alumina, Al2O3, aluminum trioxide. So these three sorbents, silica, fluorosil, and alumina, silica, fluorosil, and alumina, SiO2, magnesium silicate, and alumina, they are polar. Why they are polar? If you consider silica, there is attachment between silicon and oxygen, then oxygen and silicon, then silicon and oxygen. This will be continuous because it is polymeric in nature. It is polymeric in nature. So at the end, OH group will be there. Because of the OH group, silica will be highly polar. Silica will be highly polar. And the same picture can be seen by magnesium silicate too. Magnesium silicate is also highly polar. So oxygen attached to silicon is responsible to provide OH group. So because of the OH group present in fluorosil or magnesium silicate, it is also polar. And alumina is highly polar sorbent. Therefore, it is used as stationary phase also in thin layer chromatography. Even silica, along with silica, alumina is also used as stationary phase. More polar stationary phases these two are. So in these three sorbents, because of the polarity, what kind of interactions we can expect? Adsorption, the silica or alumina after hydrolysis, they tend to undergo ionization to get converted to SiO minus selenate groups. Anionic form will be attained for them. So these selenate groups tend to attract the solutes by adsorption process. Therefore, adsorption is the possible mechanism when you use silica or alumina or magnesium silicate as sorbent. And even hydrogen bonding, SiOH group is present. If hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen is present in solute, definitely it will be present. And if they are present in functional groups, so hydrogen bonding can be expected. Intermolecular hydrogen bonding can be expected between sorbent and the solute. Therefore, when you use polar sorbents, highly polar sorbents, adsorption and hydrogen bonding are the two mechanisms we can expect for the separation of solutes. I told you about modified silica. Modified silica, namely octadecylsilane C18S37Si. C18S37Si. It is also simply known as C18 silane, C18 silica. That is to your convenience. Octadecylsilane. ODS means octadecylsilane. So here the alkyl group having 18 carbon atoms and 37 hydrogen atoms attached to silica, attached to silicon, therefore octadecylsilane. And similarly octylsilane. Octadecylsilane is more hydrophobic when compared to octylsilane because of length of alkyl chain. Octadecylsilane is more hydrophobic when compared to octylsilane because of bulky group because of the length of alkyl chain. So whenever the solute is interacted with octadecylsilane and octylsilane, hydrophobic interaction will be more with octadecylsilane rather than octylsilane, right? Okay, and even phenylsilane, silica can be modified by introducing phenyl group. The phenyl composition may be 5% or 10% or 50%, 5% of phenyl modified silica or 10% phenyl modified silica, whatever it is. You will come to know all these things, all these sorbents or all these silica materials in chromatography, and you can understand in a better way. So phenyl substituted silica, octyl substituted silica, octadecyl substituted silica, these are modified silica which can be used as sorbents. When you use them as sorbents, non-polar interaction you can see in all these three. Non-polar interaction. Why? Because no polar group is present in these sorbents. Either you take ODS or octylsilane or phenyl modified silica, no polar group is available, so no portion of polar interaction between the solute and sorbent because they are non-polar. Then what kind of interaction possible? Van der Waals interaction, it will be possible. Very weak force of attraction between solute and the sorbent may be expected, and pi to pi interactions can be expected. Pi to pi interactions, p electron interaction can be expected. P electron of the solute can interact with a pi electron of the sorbent, so delocalization can be taken place. So electron cloud can become closer. So electronic attraction possible. So that is pi to pi electronic interactions. So pi pi interactions are possible. So these are some sorbents. Silica, fluorescent and alumina, they are polar. Adsorption or hydrogen bonding can be expected. And bonded modified silica such as octadecylsilane, octylsilane and phenyl modified silica, they are non-polar. And we can expect only Van der Waals interactions or pi pi interactions in such sorbents. I told you about some intermediately polar sorbents such as cyanopropyl silica and aminopropyl silica. They are not as strongly polar as silica or as less polar as octadecylsilane or octylsilane. Why? Silica is more polar because of presence of OH group. Octylsilane or octadecylsilane are non-polar because of presence of that octadecyl group and octyl group, right? But here, cyanide and amino groups, cyanopropyl and aminopropyl. Propyl group is somewhat hydrophobic. It is less hydrophobic, less hydrophilic, we can say both, because this is alkyl chain. Propyl group attached by cyanide group. Cyanopropyl group attached to silicon and aminopropyl group attached to silicon. Cyanide is polar, amino group is polar, but propyl group is less polar when compared to cyanide and amino. Therefore, this become intermediately polar. So therefore, we can keep them under the polar sorbents. The interactions are polar interactions or hydrogen bonding. If you use cyanopropyl silica or aminopropyl silica, only polar interactions or hydrogen bonding you can expect. Okay, right. Then if you use the ion exchange sorbents, here propyl benzene sulfonate, CS2 thrice means propyl benzene sulfonate. Propyl benzene sulfonate modified silica. Silica can be modified by introducing the group propyl benzene sulfonate. If this undergo ionization, this will be converted into SO3 minus and H plus. This you are using as sorbent. And when you pass the sample solution through this sorbent, hydrogen ions are going to be exchanged by cations. Therefore, cation exchange equilibrium we can expect. Since this sorbent is ionic, this is put under ionic sorbent. Similarly, propyl trimethyl ammonium chloride is introduced. Propyl trimethyl ammonium chloride is introduced to silica. That is also a modified silica. Because of the propyl group and trimethyl ammonium group, chloride will be present as counter ion here. Chloride is anion, but in this case, hydrogen was cation. So cation exchange we can expect. Here chloride is anion, we can expect anion exchange. Anion exchange, here it should be N. So ionic exchange equilibrium we can expect while using these sorbents in propyl benzene sulfonic acid silica or propyl trimethyl ammonium chloride silica. Ionic exchange equilibrium can be expected by using cation exchange and anion exchange sorbents. Cyclodextrin is a very, very beautiful molecule, very bulky, and there are a number of hydroxy groups are present. It is more chiral, it is highly polar. So therefore, because of the polarity, extreme polarity of cyclodextrin, adsorption or hydrogen bonding or dipolar interaction or steric effects, because that is a bulky molecule, steric effect can be seen, right? So I told you about the size exclusion. The solutes are going to be separated based on the size by using styrene divinyl benzene copolymer, where the fourth position of styrene and divinyl benzene will be substituted by this SO3H group or NCS3 tri-Cl group. They are used as cation exchange and anion exchange resins. If you use the copolymer of styrene and divinyl benzene by substituting SO3H group and NCS3 tri-Cl group, such sorbents will be put under sorbents for cation exchange and anion exchange separations. But without this SO3H and NCS3 tri-Cl group, only styrene and divinyl benzene copolymer if we use, that will be a good grain-sized species, which is more suitable for the separation of the solutes based on size exclusion. Whichever the solute which is having larger size, they are going to be excluded, and the solutes which are having a lesser size, they are going to be stayed over this copolymer for longer time. Therefore, the separation sequence we can quote. So this sorbent, styrene divinyl benzene copolymer sorbent, is non-polar, but if we use this only size exclusion principle, we can expect. We can encast the size exclusion principle for the separation process. All right. So these are certain sorbents we will use in solid phase extraction. Let me show you what kind of interactions are possible when the solute is made to interact with sorbent. Right. This is one particular example to show interaction between solute and sorbent. And this is the sorbent bed that is silica base, the basic foundation of the silica. Then it is attached by the hydrophobic group. Actylsilane is the sorbent here. Chemically modified silica is the sorbent. This is the actylsilane, and the base of the silica group has been attached by actyl group. When you pass the sample solution containing these two compounds, so this is the one compound, 2-amino-naphthalene, and this is the other compound, sulfonic acid group of compound. Here, the actyl groups are hydrophobic. Actyl groups are hydrophobic, and naphthalene ring is also hydrophobic. So there will be hydrophobic interaction is possible between this naphthalene and hydrophobic actyl group, and this hydrophobic pentyl chain and the actyl chain of silica. Pentyl chain of the compound and actyl chain of silica. Right? This may be hydrophobic, weak van der Waals force of attraction, and bonded functional group between C8 and the solute can also be expected. Bonded functional group here. Bonded functional group. So here hydrophobic interaction or van der Waals interaction or bonded interaction can also be expected. So these type of interactions are possible when you introduce the samples such as benzene, ethyl benzene, toluene, xylene, are passed through the equipment or apparatus containing sorbent. These type of interactions can be seen. So BTEX means benzene, ethyl benzene, toluene, and xylene, which can be separated by using this modified silica from groundwater. And tricarboxylic acids can also be separated from biological fluids. Xanthines can be separated from beverages. So this is one type of interaction. So naphthalene and hydrophobic chain, there is interaction. And here the hydrophobic chain, and here also one hydrophobic chain, the interaction is possible. Here, the interaction between these two, this hydrophobic chain and this hydrophobic chain, will be stronger when compared to this. Because here the dipolar interaction between the naphthalene ring and the hydrophobic chain will be weaker when compared to this. So because this is van der Waals interaction. So when you introduce these two compounds, this compound will be separated from this compound. First this compound will come out, then at last this compound, like this. And here the other example I can show you, interaction between solute and sorbent by using modified silica. Here hydroxypropyloxypropylsilane, hydroxypropyloxypropylsilane, and here this is cyanopropyl group has been attached. This is a mixture of two different groups. This silica mixture of two different groups. One is hydroxypropyloxypropyl and cyanopropyl groups have been introduced to silica. This is a chemically modified silica. This is highly polar, this is less polar. So if you pass these two compounds which are present in the sample, so hydroxymethyl cyclohexane and naphthol, hydroxymethyl cyclohexane and naphthol, these are the two compounds if they are present in the sample, and if you pass them through the sorbent bed, the chances of interaction are this: either dipolar interaction or hydrogen bonding. Dipolar interaction between carbon and oxygen. Dipolar interaction between carbon and oxygen. Hydrogen bonding between nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen bonding you can see. So dipolar interaction is more, it is stronger. So this compound will be eluted first than this. So when you pass these two compounds, hydrogen bonding is very weaker when compared to dipolar interaction. So the compound which had involved in the hydrogen bonding will come out first, then this compound will. Like this. So examples are anti-inflammatories from pharmaceutical preparations can be separated. Fungicides from citrus fruit juices can be separated. And even lipid classes can be separated from serum. Moreover, the chemical compounds which are having such functional groups can be separated by using chemically modified silica. In the previous case, I have showed chemically modified silica. Here the silica is non-polar. But here silica is polar. The sorbent is polar. Here modified silica, sorbent, it is non-polar. Here it is polar. Why it is polar? Because of the presence of this hydroxy, oxygen and cyano group. So therefore, mixture of polar and intermediately polar interactions can be expected. Not only that, dipolar attraction or hydrogen bonding can also be expected. Here other type of silica I have presented. Other type of silica. Silica is modified by introducing the CS2, C6, CH4, SO3 minus group. So this is the group including this SO3 minus, right? And this carboxylate anion group. So ethyl carboxylate and ethyl substituted benzene sulfonate are the groups modified to the silica, and this is being used as sorbent. When you transfer these two compounds through the sorbent, this is the one compound and this is the other compound. What kind of interaction takes place here? So carboxylate anion is negatively charged and sulfonate is also negatively charged. So if there are any positively charged species are presented, if you pass acidic solution of the sample, aqueous sample, which is containing these two solutes, the groups undergo protonation. The NH2 group was present initially and it was accepted one hydrogen ion to get converted to NH3 plus, and this pyridine nitrogen has undergone to get protonated to get converted into N plus. So the force of attraction between this primary amine and sulfonate is more when compared to force of attraction between this tertiary amine and carboxylic acid, because this sulfonic acid is strongly acidic than carboxylic acid. So the electrostatic attraction between this primary nitrogen ion in the protonated form and this anion sulfonate group takes place, and here between the protonated nitrogen of the pyridine group and carboxylic acid takes place. So the electrostatic attraction between these two is stronger when compared to these two. So which compound will elute first? This compound will first come out. And at last, this compound will be coming out. So like this, these are the examples we can quote for the usage of these type of sorbents. The separation of amino acids and their metabolites from urine, and anticholinergics from plasma, polychlorinated pollutants in fly ash. So these are some examples. Don't worry about this, but in order to understand the fundamental principles which are involved in the separation by using sorbents, these are the force of attractions, or these are the mechanism of interactions taking place between the solute and the sorbent. And which force of attraction, which type of interaction is stronger, you should be able to understand, right? So this is the other example. Here, sorbent is having only this group. So sulfonate group, this is negatively charged. And if you pass this compound through the sorbent, the only compound, if you assume present, sulfonate group is negatively charged and N plus is positively charged, there will be electrostatic attraction takes place. Not only electrostatic attraction, but also hydrophobic interaction can also be secondary hydrophobic interaction, because this here phenyl ring is present. Here also phenyl ring is present. But in this case, you cannot expect hydrophobic interaction, because the force of attraction between this carboxylate anion and this protonated amine will be more, and the interaction between this sulfonic acid and NH3 plus will be more. So hydrophobic interaction cannot be expected, because here there is no phenyl ring, and this phenyl ring is very far from this, and here this phenyl ring is very far from this. So dipolar interaction we cannot expect. So only electrostatic attraction we can see. But here if you see, the distance between two aromatic systems is very, very low. The aromatic systems is very, very low. Here also, this is not phenyl ring, this is aromatic system. The distance between this one and this one is very high, so interaction not possible. But this is very near to this carboxylate anion, therefore the interaction is possible. Like this. Here, this aromatic system is near to this one, so hydrophobic interaction can be expected. So by means of these type of interactions, basic drugs from urine and plasma can also be separated. So these are some examples I can quote. So whatever the sorbent, if you use either unmodified silica, if you use along with fluorosil or magnesium silicate, alumina, polar interaction possible. And if you use modified silica such as hydrocarbon modified silica, octylsilane and octadecylsilane, non-polar sorbent is used, where dipolar attraction possible and hydrophobic interaction is possible, and even van der Waals interaction is also possible. If you use the sorbents such as cyanopropyl or aminopropylsilane, they are intermediately polar. Polar interaction is possible, and even hydrogen bonding is also possible. So even ion exchange can be expected if you use the sorbents which are ionic in nature. So sorbent will be prepared in such a way that it will be suitable for the separation of cationic and anionic species. So both are possible. So like this, many sorbents we can quote for your convenience. And this is how the sorbents will be playing very, very important role. What is the experimental condition you are maintaining, such as pH and temperature, is also very important. So now to sum up, in this module, we have understood about the principle of solid phase extraction along with the definition, and what are the sorbents we can use, how to modify the sorbents, and what are those modified sorbents we will use, what kind of interactions will be possible between sorbent and the solute we have understood. So this is general structure of silica. I told you silica will be having OH group, OH group, OH group, and because of this OH group, silica is more polar, and this is modified silane. So this will make the sorbent more hydrophobic, and this is alumina, and this double bond O group will become responsible to make this alumina more polar. So this is how we can write the structure for all those sorbents what we will use. So I thank for your patience. In this module, we have understood about the definition and principle of solid phase extraction and about the sorbents which are used in solid phase extraction. Let us see you in the next module. Thank you.